Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with this video update for this 1/6 scale static M4A3 105mm Sherman tank. Since the last video, a lot of progress has been made to the tank's upper hull, which I will go over now. To start with the tank's upper hull, we will see that pretty much all of the upper hull detailing has been completed towards the rear. On the tank's rear wall, we will see the tank's engine starter crank tool post over here. Over here we have the wing nut supports for the metal rear folding rack, and we also have the racks for the spare track racks. In my other M4A3 build videos, I describe how they work, where if you remove these two wing nuts here, these fold open and you can insert 3 spare track links into the spaces above. In addition to the spare track racks, the tank's full function metal storage rack has also been added. This again, just like in my other videos, is full function. It folds up this way as well as opens up. Over here is the mount for the tank's gun cleaning kit, and if I remove this wing nut here, the mount opens up, allowing me to get access to the telescoping gun cleaning kit. The gun cleaning kit itself will be added after the tank is painted. Moving to the top engine neck, we will see that all of the tool posts have been added, along with the tank's sculpted epoxy weld beads. Each one of these beads is hand sculpted to mimic that of a weld bead. The tool posts are all fabricated out of metal. Some are soldered together, and they're all mounted to the hull via the epoxy weld beads. The weld beads serve two functions. They not only give the tank detail element of the weld, but they also act as structural support, actually holding the piece to the model. In addition to the tool posts, the fuel caps have also been added. As we can see here, in addition to the fuel cap, also the identification tags were added. On Sherman tanks, this fuel cap here and this fuel cap here for gasoline, all the fuel caps are fully functional via this pin here. If I pull on this pin, fuel cap cover will open up and it will reveal a turned aluminum fuel cap, which will be added after the model is painted. In addition to the fuel cap, the actual fuel cap itself, the pin will receive a retaining chain which will hook up to this little mount over here. Moving on, we will see the tank's lift hook and the tank's engine hatch stop. The stop is here to keep the large engine hatch here from clunking onto the tool posts below. In addition to that, we also have here the tank's brush guard, taillight brush guard, along with the taillight. Taillight will be painted once the model is painted. Over here we could see the tool post for the large wrench and the sledgehammer. This side of the hull here, we again have the engine hatch stop and the rear lift hook. This little bracket over here is the functional tow cable lock. If you move the wing nut, it folds out of the way, the clamp opens up, and I will be able to actually stow the tow cable in this position if I decide on adding one. Moving on to the side, we will see here a bracket, and this bracket here is for the ranging poles. Now, this detail here is specific for 105mm Sherman tanks. This bracket here is where the telescoping ranging poles would be stowed. Keep in mind, the Sherman 105 is not necessarily a tank. In fact, it's a self-propelled gun. It's really an artillery piece. And these ranging poles would be positioned out, and this is what the crew would use for actually ranging in the howitzer whenever a forward observer or a artillery spotter would radio in for support. when they're not being deployed, they would be stowed in this rack here. All details on the rack have been added, and the rack itself is all fabricated out of brass and sheet metal, and it's all soldered together. Poles themselves will be fabricated out of wood and brass, and they will be able to telescope like the ones on the gun cleaning kit, and these again will be added after the tank is painted. Moving our way to the tank's engine hatch, we will see that the engine hatches are completed and have been reworked from the kit original. Originally, the hatches had this type of appearance to them. This was in where this brass section was now. The way I did the grill work was I removed the center portion, which had the molding and detailing, and I replaced the plastic grill detail with actual brass ones. These grills are made out of brass strips and are all soldered together. The hatches are also fully functional. I could lift up, and I also have the interior detailing of the hatch. As we can see here, the hatch has the grill detail on the interior, as well as the large sheet metal ductwork that is present on M4A3 Sherman tanks. As we can see here, the entire grill work, its construction is that of metal, and it's all soldered together, which makes it very strong, and again gives the hatch a lot of weight to it, which keeps it resting on the tank's hull nice and securely. This type of grill arrangement is only found on the M4A3, which is powered by the Ford GAA gasoline engine. These large grill ducts on the inside that I showed before help suck in cool air into the tank's two large fans and radiators, which would be mounted directly below this plate here. This configuration is only found again on the M4A3. Subsequent Shermans in the Sherman family does not have these, which would include the M4, the M4A1, M4A2, and the M4A4 and M4A6. Those have different, each of those tanks have different engine configurations, which have a different rear engine deck appearance. Moving past the engine, we will see that the tank's air filter cover has been added, and the tank's fire extinguisher box. On these American tanks, these two handles here control the internal firefighting unit that would be inside the engine compartment and inside the crew compartment. If the tank would get hit and begins to cook, someone would run up and pull on these handles, which would be painted red. That would trigger the firefighting or the fire extinguisher unit that's built inside of the vehicle. As another note for the fire extinguisher, this unit similar units are also found on other American vehicles, including on the front of the M60 series, and it's also found on the M5 and the M3. Moving towards the front of the vehicle, along the sides we can see here that the tank's side skirt mounts have been added. The mounts themselves are made out of sheet styrene and have their spot welds added in intermittent spots as per the real vehicle. Moving towards the front of the vehicle, we can see that pretty much the entire front is complete. The original clunky fenders were removed. In their place, new sheet metal ones have been fabricated. These sheet metal fenders mount to the hull in a similar fashion as per the real vehicle. You have 3 fasteners on top, and these 2 fasteners here mount onto the tank's final drive. As we can see, in addition, the tank's sprockets has been added. Tank sprocket are the Resson Panzerwerk late VVSS sprocket. I've used these on my previous builds and they are a nice piece. The steel shaft that you see here is added by myself and pivots inside of the final drive unit very nicely. In addition to the Panzerwerk Resson sprocket, the sprocket is mounted to the Panzerwerk Resson final drive assembly. The final drive itself is all one solid casting and is nicely detailed. The two are a perfect match and look very well on the model. Moving on to the tank's transmission detailing, we will see here that the transmission itself has a nice cast texture to it. This will really pop out once the tank is painted. On this side here we have the comb track locking device. Now previously in my older videos I called it a wire cutting device, but that is incorrect. Recently information has surfaced that describes the true identity of this piece here. The way this system works is that when the Sherman itself is being put on a boat or on a train and being transported, they need to lock the tracks. And the way they do that is with the track levers, they pull them to the braking position. Then they tie them with a rope. The rope is then brought out through the machine gun ball here when the machine gun's not in its place, and it is then locked into one of these grooves here and pushed down. By doing that, the track levers stay in the brake position. On the opposite side of the comb, we will see the tank's tow cable lock. There is another piece just like this on the tank's back, and that would hold the tow cable on the back side of the vehicle. The clamp itself is also fully functional. Moving upward, we will see that old, molded in, inaccurately detailed transmission cover strip has been deleted. In its place, a new, better detailed one has been added. Moving towards the front glacis plate detailing, we will see that pretty much it's all ready to go. Over here is the lift hooks, the headlights, and the horn. All brush guards have also been added. These brush guards are all made out of steel, and it's all soldered together. All of their chain detailing will be added after the tank is painted, as well as the clear resin lens itself. Moving towards the right, we can see the tank's bow M1919 machine gun has been added. The machine gun itself is made to pivot like the real gun. The gun itself and the ball here are from Panzerwerk and are nicely detailed. The ball itself sits in the EastCoastArmory.com bow M4 Sherman bow machine gun mount. This mount here is designed for these late production M4A3 Sherman tanks and is designed to be fitted with the Panzerwerk machine gun. The machine gun mount itself has some interior detailing molded into it. This was done in case you are building your Sherman with a full detailed interior, or in case you are building an M36B1 tank destroyer. In addition, this ball mount can also be used on the M36B2 tank destroyer, which had the post-war upgrade, which included, of many things, the bow M1919. Along with the bow M1919 mount, we could see here that the bow machine gun mount tarpaulin rack or mount system has been added. The mount itself actually has little nubs molded in, and these little nubs are actually clips to where the canvas bag or tarpaulin would snap onto. Moving further, we can see the tank's full function travel lock. Travel lock itself is designed to function like the real one, and this gun will be able to be fitted inside here for the storage mode. On top of here, we can actually see the little clip, which is the retaining hook, and the retaining hook actually holds this piece onto the vehicle. Over here past the lift hooks, we can see the small bracket here, which is for the tank's side view mirrors. These side view mirrors will be added, but a little later on. On our way to the bow hatch area, we can see that the bow hatch area has improved a lot since the first video. This area here has been built up with epoxy, and furthermore the hatches have been fabricated and have been designed to open properly. On the original kit, the hatch was meant to open improperly into this direction here. What had to be done was the hinge area had to be reworked, and the area had to be slightly modified for the new resin hatch here. These hatches here are the resin late M4A3 Sherman hatches, which are found on EastCoastArmory.com. The hatch opens properly, which is outward and forward. And as you can see here, the hatch has its Panzerwerk US AFV periscope mount added. The periscope itself is a nice piece, and more of that will follow. Same thing here on this driver's hatch. In the center here we have the air intake cover. The air intake cover actually also has its screen mesh underneath. On the radio operator side of the vehicle, we can see here the antenna cover cap. The antenna cover cap is meant to cover up a place where the antenna would go. On Sherman tanks, this cover cap here is kind of inherited from the earlier Sherman, which had a large cylindrical mound on the front glacis plate where the antenna would go for a radio. But since the radios are typically kept in the back of the turret here, this position here is not needed and is plated over. The only time these are really used are on M36B1 Jacksons, which have, since you can't have the antenna in the turret because of all the gun equipment, the radio would be kept here in this side of the hull, to which they would mount the antenna base. The last bit of detail that was added to the front is the tow cable cleat here, as well as a tow cable cleat back here. These cleats are meant to align the tow cable, which would first start here, lock in here, lock into here, and which would guide it over here to the front tow cable cleat. These cleats just pretty much keep the tow cable from flopping around. And that concludes this project update video for this 1/6 scale static M4A3 105mm Sherman tank. Stay tuned for more update on this model, as well as more detail upgrades. And don't forget to stop by eastcoastarmory.com for more projects, as well as more detail parts. Thank you.